All right, dear students, I hope you are fine. So previously we have talked about arrays, and we said arrays are set of elements, set of variables. We said in order to have, let's say, to save five values, and then calling that five value later, you should have five variables. But in order to have a set, you can have these kind of five variables if they are the same type. Let's say they are only all of them are integers or all of them are double. So you can compact them into an array, make them a set, and give only one name to the set. This by this way, I can, let's say, either initialize all the elements or call each element if I want it. So instead of having, let's say, 10 variables, I can have a set or like, let's say, a list or an array having the name, and then I can initialize the values. Let's say uh, you are 50 students in one group, let's say, inside a class. Instead of doing, let's say, creating a variable for each of you, and then let's say having your IDs, I can have an array which is composed of 50 elements, and I will say the first ID is for the first student, the second ID for the second student, and so on. So I give only one name, and I'm able to put 50 variables or 50 values inside it, and this will make the information more organized, and I am able to know where the information for a specific thing is. Okay. In order to, because an array is still a variable, so it should have a type. Let's say an integer is a variable, and the type of the variable is, let's say, integer a. Let's say number one equals to let's say number one, and then number one equals to 5. So this is the variable, this type of the variable, this name of the variable, and this is the value of the variable. So arrays are the same. I'm saying I'm going to have an array of an integer type. So this is the type of the variable I have, the type of, array I have. And what's the name of the array? Array ID. So this is the name of the array I have. But instead of just saying that, you see, this time if I have integer array ID, it's the same as the variable. But in fact, arrays are list. So I should have something like this, which have the amount of the values, amount of numbers it should contain. So I'm saying 5. This is how I'm going to declare an array. So this is known as declaration. Right now, what's inside the array? Nothing. So our array it contains like some garbage numbers. Okay, it has a type, it has a name, it has a size, but it's a declaration. It doesn't have any value inside it. It's just like here. If I see out number one, and if I control F5 it, I'm not going to have something meaningful. So I'm having an array. But in the case of an array, if I see out an array ID, so what is it? Array ID. And I'm going to call the first element. Here it was let's say an error, but right now it's not an error. In fact, it is giving me let's say something like some garbage number, some numbers with minus sign, which doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, so let's our program run and see the result. You see our array is only declared, and this is the number it's giving me. I don't know what does this mean. It doesn't mean anything, and it is not even the memory address of the array. It's some garbage thing. Okay. So before cout, before printing something, we should always initialize our value, our array. So how we are initializing a variable just like this? How we are going to initialize an array? In three ways maybe. The first way, I can say array ID and then say the 0 index equals to 5, let's say. And I'm going to copy this and 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So this is the first value, second value, third value, fourth value, and no. This is when I'm saying 5, it doesn't mean from 0 to 5. It means 5 different values. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope it is clear. So right now I'm saying I'm having 5 values, but my indexes are from 0 to 4, which is equals to 5. And the values are 5, 4, 3, and 2, and then 1. So this is a way of initialization. So first way of initializing an array. By the way, when I'm saying this, you see this, the ID is the index is changing. Let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can use a for loop or a while loop to make this count, and according to that, we can give values. So this is a way of initializing an array. The second way of initializing an array, let me comment this and say second way. The second way, I can say integer array ID 2, let's say list 2 or list 2, and this is list 1. Okay, let's be list 2. And then I'm having how many variables, how many values? 4 values. I can directly initialize it here. Okay, so I can say let's say 6, 7, 8, and then 9, which is composed of 4 elements. And this means that my array is composed of 4 elements, and these are the values respectively. What do I mean by this is that the 0 index is 6, and then the 1 index is 7, and then the third index is 8, and then the fourth index is 9. So it is respectively. The first one is the first element, the second one is the second element, and the second and the third and fourth. We can do something else by how we can do it. We can have another way of initializing just like this, integer list 3, and then I'm having, let's say, 8 values, and I can say 0. This way, it makes all the elements of the list 3 all be 0. So the first index, which is the 0 index, let me simply copy this. And this one is 0, this one is 0, 0, and 0. So what this means, it means that from the 0 index until the 7th index, which becomes 8 elements, all values are 0. Okay, so 3, 4, and so on and so on. So this makes the array, I'm initializing the array, all the elements to 0. But when I copy this, and if I write this one 9, this doesn't make and doesn't create an array which all values are 0. In fact, this is making an array only the first element is 9 and all the other elements are 0. I hope it is clear. So we have this kind of things right now when I'm initializing the array. The first one, I'm initializing it by this way. The second one, I can initialize it by this way directly. And this one, the third one, I can initialize it by writing the 0, which means initializing all the elements to 0. All this, the third one is initializing, this one should be 4. And I have list 4, which is composed of 8 elements. I have written 9, just like the 0, but in fact, this one is only initializes the first element to 0, and the others will be 0. The first index will be 9. The value of the first index will be 9, and the value of the others are all 0. Okay. There is one more thing I should care about. Right, you see this, I have 4 values and I have written 4. So whenever I initialize my array like this, it's not always important to have the value inside, because I already initialized all the values and it's only 4 values. So at this time, if I write 4 or not writing it, doesn't change anything. But here, if I don't write it, this means there's only one element and the element is 0. But if I write 8, means there are 8 elements. But here, because I already have, let's say, initialized all the indexes, so either writing 4 or not writing 4 doesn't change anything. Okay? I hope it is clear. So this is how I'm going to initialize, or how I'm initializing an array. How I'm going to print out the array, the elements of the array, it's the same way like this, or you can use for loops, while loop, and stuff. So how I'm going to see out this array, it's very simple. I'm writing see out, and then what you may suggest, like array ID, and then the 0 index, and then end line. So this will show me the value of the index 0. What's the value? It is 5. And if I wanted to see out the second value as well, so I'm going to copy this and paste this and make this one 1. And I can copy this. Instead of writing 0, 1, I can write 4. And then I can write 3. So 0, 1, 3, 4. There is 2 remain. Okay, I don't write it. So when I run this, you see 5, 4, 1, 2. So 5 is the 0 index, 4 is the second index, the first, I mean, the first index, 0 index, first index, 1 index, I mean, and 1 is the fourth index, and 2 is the third index. I hope this is clear. So we said all the indexes of an array are starting from 0. Okay? Okay, very nice. Instead of writing all these things, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stuff, I can use, look at this, let me just take this one into here. And let me write it here as well. This one is 4 and this one is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay. So right now I have printed all these elements, but how many lines I needed? I needed 5 lines. Suppose that this is not 5, this is 1,000. So what's the, how I can write? I should write 1,000 line to print out or to have a report of 1,000 elements? No, I can write all these things using a for loop. Instead of like integer and I, and the size of the array is, what's the size? Is 5. So you see, something is changing here, the index of the array, it's always incrementing, like 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you come to the for loop, you may see that this one is starting from 0 and goes until 1 before 5, which is 4, including. So I can simply say cout and array ID and then I. And I can give an end line just like this. And I'm going to comment all these out, Control K, Control C. So I commented this all out, and we'll come to the next one. Okay. So instead of all these lines, or if that was 1,000 elements, I can have 2 lines of code. This is the first one is the for, which is starting from 0 until 5 and goes 1 by 1. And the second one is to print array according to the I. The I is the first time is 0, the second time is 1, the third time is 2, the fourth time is 3, and the fifth time is 4. Just like here, the first time is 0, second time, third, fourth, and fifth. And if I run the program right now, you may see that there is no different at all. So either I'm printing out like this, or I'm printing out like this, it's totally the same. So if I can print out like this, so I'm able to initialize it like this as well. So I can say print I, instead of writing cout, I can say array I equals to let's say I plus 1. That's it. So what do I mean by this is that I is equals to, let's say it is 0, but the value of the array I, which is array 0, is 0 plus 1, which becomes 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. So at the first time it will initialize it, and then it will print it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can say it is 9 minus I. I the first time is 0, and the second time becomes 1. So 9 minus 1 becomes 8. So it will decrease, becomes like 9, 8, and then 7, 6, 5, 4. So it came until 5, decreased. So you can play it here, either doing something or initializing it. Before having the cout, I can work on it, having different kind of things, either having if statement here. So if I will say, I'm going to comment this, I will say if I modulus 2 equals to 0, so if the I was even, I'm going to say cout, and I'm going to say I is even, and then I'll give an end line. I'm giving a space here. So when I which is this one, if I is even, I'm going to say I is even. Before saying that, I don't want the I want the array to be either to know if the array is even or not. So instead of I'm going to write if array ID at I position, at the 0 index, at the first index, then third index, and so on. So if the first element of the array, and then the second and third. So as an example, I'm talking about the first element, the 0 index. If the 0, because I is 0, if the 0 index, the modulus 2 equals to 0, so if it was even, cout I, no, cout array I is even, because we are talking about the value of the array, not the index of the array. Okay, so the array I, which is the value of the array, is even. In other cases, if it wasn't like this, else, and then another if, else we can say odd, because else there are only two cases. Either the value is, let's say, even or odd, or zero, of course, but we are not taking the zero into consideration. So we are saying either it is odd. By the way, we can say 0 modulus 2 equals to 0, so it will become an even number. If it has 0, so means that it's an even number. Okay, so else it's an odd number. So if I print my my program, we will have some good values which are saying that this value is odd, this value is even. So 9 is odd, 8 is even, 7 is odd, 6 even, and 5 is odd. This way, I'm able to process on the results of the list. Okay?